Since you found this channel, you're probably already pretty familiar with the concepts of passive income and FIRE. FIRE meaning financially independent, retired early. I personally love watching those videos where people are sharing kind of like, this is how my portfolio is growing. Look how much my dividends are making each month. Or like, this is the business we started. Look how much it makes month over month. And this is how we compare to last year. Those types of videos are like really interesting to me as a small business guy. And being a YouTuber in the finance, investment, small business space, I often get messages from people asking me like, dude, what's the best way to get rich? What's the best way to get passive income? How do I grow my money quicker? But I often have to hesitantly reply to them and say, dude, it's really not that easy. It's not as simple as getting this program and paying a guy, $500 or $1,000 to be your coach, and then your life will become passive from now on. There's like a lot more involved to it. And actually, I would kind of argue that passive income is a myth. And if you waste too much of your time and money chasing that short-term goal of passive income, you might end up taking a much longer roundabout way to getting to that real goal. So in today's video, we're gonna be talking about why passive income is a myth. Welcome back to the channel, family. My name is Trey, getting in touch with you from Japan. On this channel, we look at personal finance, stocks, investing, growth, small business, and all these different kinds of things. We are a growing community, and we hope to be somehow creating a community where we can be sharing with each other, encouraging each other, helping each other to figure out how to be growing, to make successful businesses, to make a brighter future for us in our communities. This is episode 5 of the How I Took $200 and Turned It Into $1 Million series. So if this is your first time seeing a video from me, please click up here to see the playlist for the rest of this series. It'll probably make more sense if you watch it in context from the beginning. It's really, really enticing to look at, big YouTubers or big Instagrammers living this baller entrepreneur lifestyle, driving their Bentleys or whatever, and want to buy into their courses so that we can have that lifestyle as soon as possible. Another big problem for those of us in the finance section of YouTube is down in the comments section, more and more, we're starting to see comments, people being like, hey, awesome video, but this guy, Robert blah, 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 and his email address, has really helped me grow my portfolio 5,000% in the last 3 months. You should email him. And then like 50 comments from people who are probably on the same team as that guy saying like, yeah, he saved my life kind of thing. And it's like, none of the finance YouTubers really know what to do about that, because you're like, dude, that's like half my comment section. Can't just erase it, but it is spam. And I hope they're not actually tricking anybody in my comment section. So these are like messages that are always flying around, and we're always having to make a decision like, am I gonna take the bait? Am I gonna fall for that? Or am I gonna work up, build up my skills, build up my talents, learn some new things and ideas and skills so that I can actually create something of worth and build a business so that I can get to passive income legitimately in the future. And that's one of the tricky things about marketing. Like, that's why really huge companies spend billions of dollars every year so that they can get eyeballs, so that they can get their message in your ears. And unfortunately, we're stupid and we fall for it. That's why they pay billions of dollars to marketing agencies to get in front of you. And probably all these comments talking about like, oh yeah, I'll make your portfolio 5,000 times bigger or whatever, in the comment section is probably some team somewhere in the world just like jumping from YouTuber to YouTuber and spamming the crap out of the comment section. And they're making money for it. I'm not necessarily saying that online courses inherently are bad, but we do really need to be careful about what kind of messages we're being served. And also, what are we seeing in those commercials or ads or pictures that pulls at something we're really thirsting for? Sometimes you'll see a thumbnail or a video and it's super clickbaity, and it's like, hey, get rich quick, or like, this is how you make $1,000 online doing nothing from home every day kind of videos. And we naturally want to click. Most of the time those end up not being legitimate. And a lot of times they'll be like, oh, now all you have to do is go to my sales funnel. And then at the end of it, it'll be like, pay me $10,000 or some kind of program like that. And sometimes people will just straight up lie to you to sell their product to you too. Fortunately, when we're shopping online, in most cases, we can look up reviews that are pretty unbiased. But in some situations, there aren't really unbiased reviews, or it's really hard to find out if something's legitimate. And one of the tricky things for us, especially if you grew up like playing video games, is that we're often trained, even in school, we're often trained that if you put in a certain amount of input, then eventually you will get this output or this result or this outcome. if you do all of your credits in high school, eventually you will get a high school diploma, which grants you access to like college or certain types of jobs or things like that. Similarly, in video games, it'll be like, if you spend 100 coins, you can get this sword. And now with this sword, you can now kill more monsters and make even more money type thing. So we're really trained, I put in this and then I get out this. And a lot of these programs are often like tugging at that, pulling at that, being like, hey, if we offer you a Bugatti or a Ferrari, all you have to do is do X and then you'll be able to get the output of a Bugatti kind of thing. And actually we're starting to see this affect the gaming industry as a whole. Like growing up, it was mostly like you go to the store and you buy a $50 or $80 game and then you play it for months kind of thing. But now, ever since cell phones and freemium model, more and more game developers are starting to realize that it's actually way more profitable to be like, hey, here's the game for free. But if you want access to this, or if you want to win, or if you want to get skins to upgrade your characters or whatever, then you have to pay. Then you have to become a member. So offering you the game for free and then getting your adrenaline going and your dopamine going really makes it easy for them to sell you something that's just like, oh dude, it's only $5 for that loot box. Okay, I'll just get it. And then a week later, you're like, oh dude, it's only $5 for that one. Oh, it's on sale, it's only $20 and I get 30 loot boxes this time kind of thing. Like over the lifetime of the game, instead of making only 50 or 80 bucks off of you, I bet on average they're making like $200 or $300 off of you. So this is the way our minds are being controlled by marketing and by offering a reward for some kind of service. And so it's really easy to see why, if something is clickbaity, like if I made the thumbnail of this video, like this is how you will make $100 in 2021 type thing, it's very likely that I'll get a lot more clicks than if I made it like a thumbnail that was like, hey guys, let's consider how passive income might be a little bit deceptive maybe or something kind of thing. Like nobody's gonna click on that. And so all of these messages are trying to compete more and more aggressively to get your attention. Whether or not they're actually providing value is another story. And one of the challenges for me on this channel is that more and more people are kind of like, dude, tell me what stock I should get right now so I can get a 20% gain on my money right now. Like a lot of people don't even want to sit down and think about their long-term strategy. And it's kind of like looked at as foolish to do so by a big part of the community as well. So as humans, we love the easiest path. We love the path of least resistance. We love not having to put in effort. But success over the long term, being able to create actual real passive income over the long term is impossible if your mind is just like, how do I make 20% today? How do I get the best thing now? How do I upgrade my blah, blah, blah now? We have to stop, sit back, slow down, and look at the really big picture, look at the really long term. And that's why I wanted to make this video. I was thinking about it, and when I was a lot younger, like I've always been a car guy ever since I was 16 and I got my license in California. I've always been a car guy and I've had 10 cars or something like that. And I'm also working on a video that I'll post up here when it's done called How Much My $20,000 Car Cost Me. And it's, now that I'm older in my late 30s, looking back at, 16, 18, 20-year-old me, being like, oh man, if I didn't keep buying $20,000 cars and modifying them and doing all this crazy stuff, I could have had a lot more money now. But when I was 16, I didn't want to think about the long term. I didn't want to think about the big picture. And maybe in the future, I'll have a wife. Maybe in the future, I'll have kids. Maybe in the future, I'll need to take care of all these different things. So that's my encouragement and that's my challenge for you in this video. I have experienced times in my businesses in the past where there's like multi-month periods where I can go and just chill and play video games. And my staff will take care of everything. And is pretty much passive, but I still need to, check in here and there and stuff. But the point I'm trying to make is that if we get our mind too programmed on the idea of I must get passive income, we stop being willing to do the hard work that it takes to get there. So for me to get there, it took probably 3 or 4 years of really hard work. And it wasn't just me programming. It was like me learning how to outsource stuff. It was me learning how to market. It was me learning how to communicate with my team, how to reward my team, how to love them and take care of them so that they would be okay if I left for 2 weeks or 4 weeks to go to the other side of the world, And all of these are different skills, that don't just come from taking a $200 class. These are things you need to work on, and one of the themes of this entire channel is you grow by failing and you grow by sucking, you know, and I've pissed off a lot of employees. I've disappointed and upset a lot of customers. All of these things contribute to the bigger picture. So don't get caught in the trap of being like, how can I get passive income now? The challenge I have for you is to think more big picture, zoom out. How can I learn how to communicate my ideas? How can I learn how to write catch copy well? How can I learn how to program or outsource programming? These are all the little ingredients that will make up kind of the big picture, which will eventually become your passive income if you're able to achieve that at all in the future anyways. So when you're looking at these advertisements or thumbnails on YouTube or whatever, I really want you to ask yourself, like, what about this title or this image really appeals to me? It's really mind-boggling and insane how much, like, if I put a girl in a bikini on the thumbnail, the click-through rate goes super high. And that's how stupid and short-sighted men can be when they see a hot girl. It's just like, oh my gosh, I have to click on it. Oh my gosh, I have to buy it because there is a bikini, because there are boobs. And so my challenge for you is to every time you're like tempted to click on something or buy a product or just like instinctually, oh man, I gotta see that. What is it about that that is grabbing your attention? Is it a girl in a bikini? Is it a Lamborghini? Is it hiking, holding hands on the beach in romance while the sun is setting? Like, what is it about that? And I want you to stop and think about how you can use similar imagery to reach your goals, your business goals, your finance and investing goals, but also to stop and analyze, how am I being played here? How are these guys trying to take my money so they can be the ones going to live on the beach, you know? And again, I'm not necessarily saying everything on the internet for sale is BS, because there's a lot of really helpful, good stuff on the internet. I'm just saying, observe what's going on in your head subconsciously and consciously. What makes you want to jump and grab that thing? And indeed, if it is causing you to do some kind of impulse buy, especially in the case of like, hey, buy my course and you'll learn how to do blah. Like, if it's something really, really incredibly easy and simple looking, the fact is that they didn't use those skills to get passive income to go and lay on the beach in Thailand drinking beers. You buying that course that they're selling you is their passive income so they can be living on the beach in Thailand. And so you got to really watch out for what they're selling you on. And so there's always a lot more to the equation. And it's really, really, like, I don't know if I've ever actually seen somebody buy a course, do 5 steps, and now they have passive income and their life is done. So don't let yourself fall into that trap. In the last video in episode 4, I was talking about how the Apple Watch gives you goals each day because our brains are encouraged when it says, hey, you finished your movement goal, or hey, you finished your exercise goal for the day. Good job. That's a positive feedback loop that makes us want to complete exercising the next day. It makes us want to do it the next day and the next day. Then you're like, dude, 4 days in a row, 5 days in a row, a week in a row, a month in a row. And that makes it easier to keep going. On the flip side, if you're like $200 or $500 to take this course and then you don't soon get results from it, our tendency is to be like, dude, I tried something new and I failed. I didn't get $1 million, or I wasn't able to buy a condo like super easily. So I'm a failure. So I should just go back to working my normal job because I'm obviously not cut out for this. That's the price you pay that doesn't have a dollar sign on it. It's like the emotional and the psychological damage, so to speak. So what do we do about this? I think one of the steps you can take is to learn how to be satisfied with what you have now. I think one of the steps we can take is to learn how to be satisfied and comfortable enough that you're able to take a step back and think about the long term, to think about 5 years, to think about 10 years. So one of the concepts I've been considering recently is kind of like, in computers, you have a bunch of different components, and RAM is one of them. And if you don't have a lot of RAM, you can't run a bunch of simultaneous operations at the same time. But if you have 32 gigs or 64 gigs of RAM, then you can be running like, you can be compiling your code while you're editing pictures in Lightroom and editing videos in DaVinci Resolve. You can be doing all these different things at the same time because your RAM helps you to be able to handle it all at the same time. In the same way, our heads only have a certain amount of RAM each day, you know? And so if your room and your house is full of stuff that you have to take care of, full of little chores and little tasks and, oh, I gotta buy this thing, oh, I gotta fix my car and blah, blah, blah. And speaking of cars, my previous car, I had a rotary engine sports car, and it was like a really dope car, but it was always kind of like I'd be working in the middle of the day, focused on something and be like, oh man, I wonder how long my engine's gonna last. Like it could blow in 1,000 kilometers, it could blow in like 5 years, like I don't know, oh my gosh. And that's taking up a bunch of the RAM in my mind each day. And so on YouTube recently, like we're seeing this whole minimalism boom, you know, and I think part of the appeal of minimalism, whether it's digital minimalism or physical minimalism or all of the above, it's kind of like really simplifying what you have and therefore what has you, you know? Even, like I have this plant behind me. It's become second nature to me now, but when I wake up in the morning, you know, I'll do the laundry, I'll do the dishes, I'll spend some time reading and stuff, but I also have to remember 3 times a week to water this plant. And that takes up like a little bit of RAM in my head. But all of these little things are, in a sense, distracting from the bigger picture, you know? And for me, I've decided that 3 minutes a week is worth it to have this plant, you know, to water it and to move it into the sunshine and stuff like that. But that's the appeal of minimalism. And that's kind of a good starting point for you if you want to start thinking about how can I get comfortable with what I already have so I'm not running around blowing all my money on stupid new tech or random garbage or new cars like I did. And also, how can I clear my mind so that I can actually stop and think not just about 20% returns now today on the hottest stock, but how can I set up my investing plan? How can I set up my education? How can I be taking courses that will be all piling into the big ultimate 5, 10, 20 year plan for my life? So for me, we've been talking a lot about JapanWiFiBuddy.com in this series. And, you know, I talk about how it grew over the years and the different challenges and stuff like that. But I've had to read hundreds of books to be able to get to that level. And I've had to fumble and stumble and mess up and disappoint like my staff and probably different people throughout the whole experience, you know. It took years, but towards the end, before the pandemic started, things were like pretty smooth sailing. And then it was like, hey, a lot of this stuff is quite passive. Let's start thinking about other projects we could do for fun, you know. But then the pandemic started, tourism disappeared, and now Wi-Fi Buddy is in a difficult spot, you know. And so I'm like, oh, maybe I've reached passive income. Maybe this is actually a reality. And now I can figure out how to start helping the people around me to reach that. Oh, reset button, pandemic. It's all done. We got to restart, you know. And if your mind isn't on the long-term picture, losing something like that could be super devastating to you if you're putting all of your trust and putting all of your hope in that plan. So you need to have some degree of flexibility, but you also need to be able to have the mindset and the humility to build up skills to be able to flex and to be able to change and shift and transition into new things. And I know a lot of like super highly skilled like engineers or doctors or nurses who get paid big time and they live super duper simply, and if they're able to save up a large enough percentage of their income, put it into investments that are doing well, then probably by the time they're 35, 40, 45, they can just retire and that income is just doing everything automatically for them. Then it's passive income. But they didn't start when they were like in middle school or high school thinking, how can I get passive income now? They started busting their butt to get into medical school or engineering school or whatever, and then busting their butt through that, and then getting a good job, and then working their way up for 10 to 20 years. And so it's never really that simple. But even then, once they have their investments paying them a passive income, you still need to check in on it every here and there. You still need to kind of monitor it, adjust it, figure out your taxes, and do these kinds of things. So it's never really passive. So I guess what I'm saying is throughout this whole thing is don't be naive. Don't get sold on the dream of really easy, really simple passive income, because it pretty much doesn't really actually exist. You'll need to learn some skills. You'll need to learn how to provide value, like super huge value to a few people, or a little bit of value to millions of people. And then you'll start to be able to take steps to go in the right direction. So take one step at a time. Don't get discouraged when you fail. Don't be disappointed if you got suckered into paying some money for some course or some class or some book or whatever. Don't get stuck in the sunk cost fallacy where you're just like, I've already blown this much money on X project. Now I have to work to get it back. It's okay to brush yourself off. Say, okay, I lost $2,000 in that endeavor. It's done, it's over. Fresh start, big picture, here we go. So some tangible things you can think about are like, what are some really good skills that would be useful over the next 2 or 5 or 10 years? You know, it could be like learning how to edit videos. It could be like learning how to program. It could be helping elderly people take a bath. Like, there are millions of things you can do in this world where somebody needs help doing something, or creating a business that solves a problem, or an app that solves a problem or a need. Another tangible step you can take is figuring out how you can simplify your life so that you can streamline learning those skills, so that you can focus more time per day or time per week on learning videography or whatever it is. You know, and it might be letting go of a really difficult relationship in your life. It might be selling a bunch of stuff that's just taking up a bunch of space and therefore a bunch of mental RAM in your apartment or in your house. One of the things we did recently is we just went through our like towel closet, and for some reason we have a space like this big that's just towels and rags. And I'm like, every time I open this, it upsets me and it pisses me off. And I'm just like OCD like that, you know? So I'm like, I got my wife and I'm like, dude, let's figure this out. It only took like 10, 20 minutes, put a bunch of stuff in boxes and figured out where each thing goes. And now I open it and it's like, now that doesn't waste any of my energy throughout the day. These are little, almost silly, practical little things that you can do that will contribute to the bigger picture. So don't get caught up in the trap of passive income. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts and comments down below. Looking forward to it. Have a great week, and I love you guys.